it is acknowledged and understood by all Americans that Washington's bureaucracy, politicians, and society have mastered the mechanics of power-mongering and corruption. The fuel and driving force behind these criminal betrayals of public trust is immeasurable, unmitigated greed. Greed has become a social epidemic, and every disease, medical or moral, has a genesis and a recognizable trail to track. By following the path of contamination and devastation from its origin to the present, and investigating all ramifications, we will be better able to find a solution or cure. All of us, as individuals and as a society, have blocked or denied the reality of our exposure and contraction of the disease called greed. We have inoculated ourselves with transfusions of pride, fear, and false piety. We have created the illusion and believed the delusion that while Washington, and by logical extension our state capitals, have been lost to the decay of greed, we, the inhabitants of the virgin pure hinterlands, have somehow been miraculously spared from the tarnishing or staining of our souls by this spiritual plague. Just how unrealistic and delirious our false claim of righteousness is can be confirmed by the fact that we elected every selfish, self-serving politician from our own midst. We felt they best embodied and exemplified our values and beliefs. That we are involved and responsible for our own demise is the subject of the next and perhaps most devastating cancer ring or repercussion of the Kennedy assassination cover-up. Our next example of the widespread collateral damage resulting from the cover-up of the assassination can only be detected and developed with a time-lapse or wide-angle lens perspective. Unfortunately, we had to earn this big picture consciousness with 50 years of experience and suffering. Dysfunctional, which means unable to solve problems. Unhealthy, which means having multiple addictive disorders. Societies are populated by confused citizens exhibiting trauma-induced behavior at all strata levels. Americans have seen and experienced so many calamities and plagues caused by abuse of power and absence of integrity that we have become numb to our beatings and are barely able to muster even a whisper of outrage against any new crimes that are committed against us by our government or elected representatives. Communal faith and individual belief in the fairness of our society's institutions and governments has disappeared like Arctic ice. Faith, like matter, cannot be created or destroyed. It goes or flows where it is most rewarded or gets the best interest rate. Our trust and confidence in the justice system, free press, religions, and educational institutions was betrayed when none of them stood up to political pressure and demanded justice or the truth about JFK's death. So, being logical, rational people, we abandoned them. Where on this fertile earth did that unrecompensed faith in man-made institutions find a home and begin to pollinate and grow? My generation concluded that we could trust no one over 30, nor was there anything that could protect us or was capable enough to barrister our ambitions before the court of fate. The only option left was for each individual to take up arms, gain financial security, and just look out for themselves in whatever manner available. Our personal goal became complete independence or firewalling from the upheavals and disappointments of society and its institutions. We sought total security for our self-image of omnipotence, that we would never rely on or burden anyone and always provide for everyone under our roof, became our noble sounding pledge or mantra. Just put the check in the mailbox and leave me alone constituted our version and vision of peace and prosperity. Absolute self-sufficiency prescribed and dictated that we choose our own path, furnish all the motivation, compose some inspiring cheers, select suitable rewards, and be the only umpire or judge of our victories. This approach to life is stressful, arduous, lonely, and exhausting. Distractions from the clamor of the masses and intrusions from others who were scrambling to build their own arks were energy-sapping nuisances and disturbances. Isolation, physically, mentally, and emotionally, became the key to give us more time and power to achieve our goal of absolute command and control over our self-determined destiny. Isolation became the greenhouse for ego-driven self-centeredness and the diminished horizons that it demanded. Like an unpruned bonsai tree, our selfishness soon outgrew its humble vessel of social customs and barriers as frugality became foolish, politics replaced community service, and honesty, it was just not profitable enough. Our newly enriched, twisted roots of self-centeredness produced a forest of selfishness that we could hew into an ark capable of sheltering and transporting us to the estate of the immune. Blissful retirement required the adoption and implementation of three concepts. Number one, I can't wait till I retire so I can tell the world to kiss my ass. Number 2, I may not be happy now, but by God, I will be when I retire. And number 3, don't you even think about getting in the way of my pension. As testimony to our individual beliefs and social values, we worshiped ego-driven heroes and elected greedy politicians. Politics became a mechanism to help us gain more and question less. Our standard for election to public office became prosperity, not principles. We chose those who promised painless profit that could be easily attained by pulling the right ballot lever. Each district and state elected spotless champions of morality that could guarantee either an unbalanced cash flow or a disproportionate share of federal dollars for their constituents. In essence, we demanded more and expected to pay less than our fair share. Every Congress and administration since the Kennedy assassination has had a reckoning with the reality of insufficient revenues to fulfill all the campaign promises made by both Democrats and Republicans alike. All the gold in Fort Knox was not enough to balance the budget, so it was abandoned as the standard of collateral for our currency. Deterred and daunted by the prospect of hard work or moral ethics, Washington, with our tacit approval and demand for prosperity at all cost, staked a claim to that limitless load of wealth known as deficit spending. In reality, this innocuous misnomer means that we decided to spend money we did not have by stealing from the future. Hypocrisy was elevated to the penthouse level by those proclaiming family values, all the while voting to steal from the unborn and voiceless. None of us planned, prayed, or plotted to be part of a staggering society at this juncture of our lives, but the stealthy step of avarice never alerted us to action. It is because decades ago we turned our back on justice, blinded ourselves to the truth, and ransomed our guilt with materialism that our nation now faces utter collapse of equal parts monetary and moral. At every juncture or crossroads that we have encountered in the last 50 years, we chose the path of comfort and complacency. We have become a nation whose values are pillared by the beliefs that we can shoot our problems and buy happiness. God help us. The very same democratic election process that has been used as a coronation proclamation to enthrone greedy politicians can now be used as a declaration of our values and desire for freedom and justice. As individuals, each of us must reflect and select the principles and ideals that we wish to embody at home and to be governed by in Washington. The Free Hand for Truth Party offers Americans the opportunity to halt the decline of our society and secure enduring freedom for the next generation of Americans. The greatness of a nation is only a reflection of the nobility and goodness contained in the soul of its citizens. As intelligent, enlightened individuals, we are not facing an ordinary political election. We are writing a new chapter in history that incorporates the courage and wisdom of present and past generations. You are urged to join the Free Hand for Truth Party and become a warrior for goodness in a dark, dark world.